our UK Crime Book Club, you can see by my beaming face that I have Sheila Bugler with me. I think this is my Sheila Bugler face.
Oh, that's a lovely thing to say. Thank you.
So we're just talking about the books that are on display behind me, and introduce yourself because I've gone all giddy and I'm waffling.
Oh, you're not waffling at all. But okay, so hello, UK Crime Book Club. I'm Sheila Bugler. I'm an Irish crime writer living in Eastbourne. I've published 8 novels so far, and my last 4 novels, well, more or less my last 4 novels, are all part of a series featuring an investigative journalist called Dee Doran. The latest book in the series is called You Were Always Mine. It came out on the 1st of September, and that's why I'm here tonight, is to promote the book and to talk to Sam and you guys about the book and about me in general and writing and everything else.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So we need to there's so much to talk about, you know, and you just don't even know where to begin because you've just got so many questions. So how have you found the release this time? Because obviously we're out in the world. So did you actually get to leave the house? I know you're having a launch soon.
Yes, so I have my launch party in Eastbourne next Thursday, which is most people have their launch the date of publication, but mainly because I'm really disorganized, Sam. It's happening later than that. It's just really it's really interesting because I think when a book comes out, there's a big lot of noise on social media. So it looks like the author's doing loads and loads of stuff, but actually, you know, it's in my local bookshop and I go and I sign a few books and stuff, and I have done some radio interviews and things like that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's kind of life just carries on, really. You know, it's quite weird, really. I think I heard an interview with Monty Don a while ago, and he said that once he's written a book and once he sent it off to his publisher, that's it. He doesn't care about it. He doesn't want to see it again. And I feel quite like that about my books, actually. I'm kind of really into writing now. So I'm kind of this one, which I love the book. I love the cover. I love all the lovely feedback I'm getting on it. But actually, it's kind of gone. And my focus now is on the book I'm writing at the moment. And that's kind of how it is, really.
Yeah, I can imagine that. And we will come to the book that you're writing in a little bit.
Sure.
I wanted to ask you about, well, just the series, the Dee Doran series in general. Give anyone who hasn't read them, and they're fantastic, give anyone who hasn't read them yet just a little overview.
Sure. So there's 4 books in the series so far. They're based in Eastbourne, which is where I live, my adopted hometown. Excuse me. The central character is a woman in her 50s, menopausal woman in her 50s. She's 2nd generation Irish. Her name is Dee Doran. She lives, so Dee, at the start of the first book, she had a really high-flying career in London as a journalist. But at the start of book 1, that career's over. Her marriage ended. She came at the same time as her marriage ended. She came back to Eastbourne to look after her elderly parents who were both very ill. Her parents died, and she suddenly ends up living alone in Eastbourne, a town that she grew up in but fled in her 20s. She never expected to be back here. She never expected to be back here living by herself. And through the course of the books, she gradually, excuse me, her career kind of revised almost by chance, because in the first book, she investigates a crime. And on the back of that, she writes an article for a newspaper. And suddenly she becomes this journalist who specializes in miscarriages of justice and investigating historical crimes and writing about kind of women and immigration into this country and stuff like that. And she becomes, by the time we reach book 4, she's got a really lucrative career as a journalist. She's been commissioned to write some nonfiction books. And she also has a bit of a sideline on, she appears on daytime TV and kind of early evening chat shows talking about women's issues and stuff like that.
Just spotted that we've got hello from Leslie and we've got hello from Peter.
Oh, lovely, Peter. Hi, Peter. Peter's another author who lives in Eastbourne. He's written a brilliant series of books as well, so do check him out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll show some of them off in a bit. And yeah, I would have loved to be at the launch, but it's the night I'm not here.
It's also in Eastbourne, which is a long way from Manchester,
it's
right?
A long way. I'll actually be a lot closer to you. I'll be down in London at the time, but yeah, not this time, but another time, definitely.
Well, I'm planning my next book launch is going to be in London, so maybe you can make that one, yeah. And maybe I'll be a bit more organized, so I'll kind of let people know, you know, with a bit more notice and stuff.
Easily done when we've all got so much going on. And then suddenly the world opens up and we wonder how we ever managed without as
Oh
much
my
time.
goodness, I know. And you know, during the first lockdown, I remember thinking we can't go back to living how we did before. And here we all are again, just as busy as we were and running around and chasing after ourselves. It's ridiculous. It really is.
Now, Before You Were Gone, was my favourite book that I read last year.
Yes, thank you.
Really raved and raved. I love this book. One of the things I love the most about it, characters that we love to hate. Talk to us about Ursula.
Well, you know what? I'm sure, I think most crime writers would agree with me, actually. It's such fun to write bad female characters. So, yeah, Ursula was, and I definitely, okay, I'm going to be really honest here. Years ago, I had a female boss who I am absolutely convinced was a sociopath. She was mad and very manipulative and conniving and very scary almost. Anyway, it was a really traumatic experience working for her. But definitely her character feeds into all of my bad female characters that I write about. And so there was Ursula in Before You Were Gone, and not so much in this. Well, there is a bad female character in this book as well, but I don't want to give too much away. But in my latest book that I'm writing called Black Valley Farm, there's a brilliantly evil female character, and she's been such fun to write. It's just great fun writing about bad people.
It always is. I'm just tagging a few people that I said I would tag. So there we go. Help them find it. I do wonder. Oh, my comments are just appearing now. So, any plans for translations for any of these books? Obviously, your Ellen Kelly books are available in German.
So my Ellen Kelly books are available in German, and whether or not any of these books get sold, that's kind of down to my agent, actually. So my agent's job, there are many jobs, is to try to sell the foreign rights for the books. It hasn't happened so far, but I live in hope. It would be lovely. Yes, exactly. Live in hope. Yeah.
But they have just come out. The Didor and Eastbourne books have just come out. Oh, they're coming out. Sorry, on the 1st of October.
No. So they're all out already in audio, apart from this one, which is coming out on the 1st of October. Yeah. And actually, for people who don't kind of know how it works, it's quite confusing actually, because so I've got a publisher for the paper books and the ebooks, but I have a different publisher for the audio books. So if you look at the books on Amazon or somewhere like that, the covers look different. And the reason for that is that it's two different companies publishing the books, actually.
Yeah, so it must be unusual because we're constantly, I'll have books in the background, we show them off, people go looking for them, and then it's a different cover.
And actually, even more confusingly this time with these books is that the original copies of the first 3 books in the series, my publisher repackaged them this year, so they've got the same name, because I know people get very annoyed if the names change, but they've got different covers now. So the covers all look a little bit more like this one, and that's just a decision the publisher made. I think they felt that I don't really know, to be honest with you, when it comes to covers and stuff like that. Like I with publishing, it's such a massive big process, and there's so many different people involved. And I've always thought my job is to write the book. Someone else's job is to do the covers. Someone else's job is to edit it and tell me what I need to change, and I think you need to, for me, I think it's really important to keep my ego out of it. And I just think, okay, somebody else knows what covers work for selling a book. I don't know that. So there's no point me really having any say in that, I don't think,
I suppose as long as you like them, you don't kind of mind. I suppose if you really hated one of them, then you might have stronger feelings about it, but the gorgeous covers.
Yeah, and I remember with my first Ellen Kelly series, the first cover that the publisher produced, I really hated, but I didn't have the confidence then. It was my first book, I didn't have the confidence to say, I don't like this cover. But luckily my agent at the time did. So the books got changed, and I was really grateful to her actually for kind of saying that on my behalf.
So you mentioned, I know obviously these the 4 that you've written recently, but there was a standalone in there as well, The Lucky 8.
There was a standalone called The Lucky 8, that's right, which was very loosely, that was about a group of people who survived a plane crash, and 5 years after the crash, it seemed as if somebody was killing off the survivors one by one. And actually, after this D book, the book I'm working on now, Black Valley Farm, that comes out next year. That's a standalone as well. That's completely different. It's based in Lincolnshire and Sheffield, so completely different location and completely different story, different characters, a real break, actually. Because with The Lucky Eight, I ended up basing that book in Sussex again, almost like I can't get out of Sussex. But I have got out with this next book completely.
Laura says, hi, Laura Hamilton. Hello, Laura.
Hi, Laura.
Somebody has said, Jennifer Price.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
just clicking across because I can't see the names on here for some reason. Hi, Sheila. Great to see you after being in your last book. You Were Always Mine.
So Jennifer, lovely Jennifer. Jennifer won through some raffle thing that UK Crime Book Club did. Jennifer won the dubious honor of being giving her name to a character in You Were Always Mine. But what people might not know is that when Jennifer kind of bidded to have that name, I gave a definition of what that character would be like. But my books change a lot as I write them. So Jennifer's character kept changing as the book evolved. And I kept having to send her messages on Facebook saying, listen, you were this, but now you're this. Are you okay with that? And she was so lovely and so kind of without ego and just kept saying, oh, just do whatever you want. It's fine. It's fine. And she was really lovely. And thank you, Jennifer. Thank you so much.
That must be really. Oh, Kaz is saying hello as well. Hi, Kaz.
Hi, Kaz.
Yeah, it must be really a nice thing to be able to talk to the person that you're basing a character on. Or is that a lot of pressure, actually? As lovely as Jennifer is it a lot of pressure?
Do you know what? Because I don't know Jennifer. And she put in this bid to be a very specific character. And the character completely changed, like everything about the character changed completely. And so I had to keep messaging her. And I think what I would have done if she said, I'm not happy with that, I would have had to find a different character to take Jennifer's name. But luckily I didn't have to, because Jennifer was so lovely. And she just kept saying, oh, I don't mind. And I think she eventually sent me a message, because I kept sending this kind of messages going, oh, this is happening now. And she just said, just do whatever you want. I really don't mind, which is so lovely of her, you know.
Yeah, I do feel like Jennifer's kind of, let's just go with it.
Yeah, no, she was great. That's exactly what she did. And actually, it's funny because my husband has a boss he doesn't really like at the moment, and we were laughing. And we were just saying that my husband's boss would love to be a named character in my book, but of course because he's got such a big ego, he'd only want to be a really good character. You know, he wouldn't like have any. It would destroy his kind of fragile ego for me to say anything nasty about him. Jennifer's not like that.
No, of course not. Not one bit. Oh, it must be kind of tempting, though, to really just go to town with him and say, well, you know, this is just where my mind went. He's obviously nothing like you.
Yeah, no, and you know, you have to, and you don't want to upset people either, do you?
No,
you know, you need to be careful. Yeah. But going back to what you were saying, Sam, about writing nasty characters, I think one of the things that's so lovely about doing that is you just get to do all the things that nice people like you and me would never dare do, you know. So it's great fun to write a character who just doesn't care about upsetting people or being mean or, you know, being amoral, all the stuff that normal people really care about.
It's really nice of you to say how we're the kind of people who wouldn't, because one of my kids has been teasing me all week about just how lovely the roses are looking. And shouldn't they be dying off by now, Mum? What's feeding those roses?
Hilarious.
She's having a lot of fun with me. Yeah. Just for clarification, there is but I haven't buried anybody under my roses. If there's anybody in there, it was nothing to do with me. But they are flourishing and thriving, and
so
I am
weird.
not the best gardener,
isn't it?
Yeah, they've reflowered, so that's why the kids are taking the mickey out of me all this week, because we all hear about what's really good to fertilize roses. So earlier on, I was thinking about a story that I read years ago, and I was trying to remember who wrote it. It's a short story, and I think it was Della Galton, who is one of the most prolific short story writers for women's fiction. They're always fantastic. They're always really engaging and a little bit out there in some way. Things with Cadillacs in them and lighthouses, and just really lovely stories, really character based. And there was one that she'd written about this family going for this walk on leap year. I'm sure it was Della. And then this idea came of what you do. It was a free day, so what do you do with this free day that we get? Mm-hmm. So it made me wonder, what would you do on, you've got a free day, husband's out, kids are out, you can do whatever you want, you can leave the house, you can stay home. Do you have like an ideal day if you could just pick up and do whatever you wanted?
So for me, I guess it would depend. I'm going to choose an ideal day that doesn't involve having a book that needs to be done by the end of the month, for example, because those days you're just like writing, that's it.
Yeah, there's nothing else.
But even I would say, on those days when I do have a book that needs to be done in the next few weeks, my ideal day would be just to have everyone gone out of the house and I don't have to worry about anything. Otherwise, for me, my absolute ideal day, it would start with a swim in the sea. Because I live by the sea and I love swimming in the sea. I'm a bit of a coward. I don't like doing it when it gets cold, but so which means I'll probably stop soon. It would start with the swim in the sea. It would start with brunch somewhere really lovely with a really good girlfriend. Then a walk because I love walking, and then lunch somewhere lovely, and then a movie because I love the cinema, and then a nice dinner somewhere, and that's it. That would be me done.
That sounds pretty perfect to me.
How about you? What would your perfect day be?
Pretty similar. I'm sorry, I don't know where this cough has come from, but I have just had some chili and I don't think I'm supposed to eat it because it makes me cough every time.
So, oh my goodness.
So maybe I need to stop having spicy food, which is not fun. Yeah, I love the idea of going for a swim. I've not been swimming for ages. I'm not sure I'm brave enough to go in the sea unless it's a fairly warm day. Don't know. It would definitely involve going somewhere nice for brunch. There's a restaurant just outside London in a place called Hatfield.
Right.
And they have, it's Turkish kitchen. And they have, in the morning before the Turkish kitchen opens, they have this Jimmy's brunch. And the brunch there is just gorgeous. So I think if I could just kind of, not have to spend 3 hours driving to it, it'd be nice to just be able to nip in. If we go in ideal days,
I think
it involves some reading.
Yes, yes. I didn't say reading.
Seeing some friends, probably. We sound like we've got quite a similar ideal day. Kind of describing what me and Kaz do when we meet up every few months. So that's always quite similar.
Is it always in Leeds, or does she come down to Manchester sometimes?
Both, yeah, Leeds and Manchester. We kind of take turns, but I think at one point we skipped to Manchester at a Leeds one and she came to Manchester instead. So yeah, we're kind of 50-50, but we don't really mind, where we are. Just nice. We go and have a walk around the bookshops and have some lunch and catch up on everything and talk about the book club and just talk about everything really, anything and everything.
Walk around the
book thing, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. A walk around the bookshops is a must, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, we always do that. Leslie Lloyd has said she'd love to be a real badass character.
Okay, Leslie,
I could have some fun with you.
But the thing is, we have to. You can be a badass character, but in a book of my choosing, because otherwise people will know the minute they read the book that you're the badass character, which we can't have.
That is true. That does kind of give the game away a bit. We'll have to think about that one.
Yeah.
So let's go back to what you're working on at the moment.
Okay, so the book I'm working on at the moment is called Black Valley Farm. It's about so there's 3 strands to it. The main strand is there's a woman called Claire who's living a very kind of isolated life in Sheffield. She's hiding away from the world, but we don't really know why. The second strand of the story is there's a woman called Nuala who's just written this award-winning podcast called Black Valley Farm, which is looking into the suspicion of people in a remote farmhouse in Lincolnshire 10 years ago. And the third strand of the story is this up-and-coming politician called Andrea Leach, who's heading up a very far-right party called the Progress Party. And she's very charming and charismatic, but very unlikable because of her politics. And it's those stories coming together. Is Claire hiding? What's she hiding from? Andrea wants Nuala to write a documentary about her, but it soon becomes very clear that Andrea's interest in Nuala is to do with the podcast that Nuala's written. And that's not a very good description of the
No,
story.
it is. It's great because that opens up 1,000 questions already.
Yeah.
Not once I'm going to ask you things that that you want to read on for.
I must say I've really loved writing it, and I've really loved writing it, and it's a really big departure for me. So I'm really hoping it goes to my publisher at the end of this month, and I'm really hoping that they like it. But yeah, it's so nerve-wracking when you get to that stage of sending it to your publisher and just hoping, and you have this huge wait every time it happens, because you probably have a wait of at least a month while your editor reads it and then kind of thinks about what feedback to give you. And it's so hard because when you're writing a book, that becomes your life for the period you're writing it, and you put everything into it, and then because it's a creative process, you don't know ever if you've got it right or if you've got it wrong, really. So that's where I am at the moment. It goes to my publisher at the end of this month. It will be published sometime next year. I hope I've done a good job of it, but we'll have to wait and see what my publisher thinks.
So do they have an idea of what the book is going to be before you start writing it, or do you just
No, they do, because so when you sign a contract with the publisher, you normally sign a contract based on a book, and based on that book, then you'll sign a contract for normally 3 or 4 books, and for the other books you have to write a synopsis, an outline of what those books will be about. And then what I do with my publisher is I'll write an outline for several books, more than 3 or 4, and then they'll choose which of those books they think that they want. But the difficulty for my publisher rather than me is because of the way I approach writing. The final product can often be quite different from the original synopsis that the publisher has seen. And you and I have spoken about this before, whereas if it was Marion Todd, for example, the synopsis, the final product would still be exactly the same, because Marion's process is very, it's just very different to mine, and it's much more planned out and stuff. So the final Black Valley Farm is quite different to the synopsis that my publisher saw at the beginning when they signed the contract for it. So I'm kind of fingers crossed, hoping that they still think it's a good book.
So one of the things that I always say speaks to me about your books, or the way the books speak to me, is that you have all of the elements that I really love to read about. You often touch on cold cases. You have, these intense relationships with people. They can be family, they can be friendships, and they can be, colleagues. There are so many different strands to it. None of your books, you can always tell they're your voice, but they're never the same. So there's no you could never predict what's about to happen just from having read previous books. What is it for you that you love about the books that you write?
Well, first of all, thank you for saying that, you can't predict, because that's really important to me. I would say, as part of the first part of my answer, is that obviously as a writer, you're always learning yourself, and I think the biggest thing I've learned about writing crime fiction is, which I definitely didn't have at the beginning, is the importance of trying to make your plots as complex as they can be. And so I would say, I mean, I love my first series of books, the Ellen Kelly books. But when I look back at them now, I still think they're really good books for much different reasons to why the Dee Doran books are. But I think the plots were possibly more straightforward. And one of the directions I've gone as a writer, which hasn't been deliberate, it's just how it's happened for me, is I definitely have gone down a path of trying to make my plots more complicated and less easy for the reader to understand what's going on. And that's a really difficult thing to do, because you have to, it's a very fine line. You have, it still has to be, the outcome still has to be realistic. And I think the absolute key in crime fiction is that the golden kind of benchmark is to write a novel where, when the reader gets to the end, there's a big element of surprise, but they still think that if they had gone back and read in a bit more detail, they could have worked it out themselves. And that's a really hard thing to do. It's like what Agatha Christie did so brilliantly, you know. And I think some crime writers make the mistake. The classic mistake is to throw in something towards the end that the reader couldn't have known about. For me, that's a big no-no. It has to be, everything has to be there in the book, so the reader thinks, I should have, and I could have got that. And that's what I set out to do. I'm not saying I get it right every time, but for me, that's a key part of how I approach writing my books.
So somebody has asked, let me look. Oh, Jennifer, when you're writing, do you prefer quiet or do you like background music?
Very good question, Jennifer. I think I choose both. Sometimes I do quiet, sometimes I think on the whole, I prefer a bit of background music. And it really probably not really interesting to me. My husband is really into classical music, but I'm much more into country and music like that. But when I'm writing is the only time I really like to listen to classical music. I like having classical music in the background.
Something without words to distract you.
Yes.
Yeah. I have a few playlists of different things. Either songs that I know really well, so I won't kind of. It's like going back to watching. I still rewatch Friends, which most people. I know there's a lot of problems with Friends, but again, but it's something that is very nostalgic for me. And I watch a lot when at various times, and it's one of those things. And I think the same with music that you're familiar with. You can kind of zone in and out of it because I've seen them all that many times. It doesn't matter if I'm paying attention. I know if I zone back in, I'll know exactly what's happened before because I've seen them a ridiculous amount of times. They're very, very good background.
Oh yeah, no, they're great backgrounds, and I love having that background when I'm reading. I really like to have the TV on in the background. And actually, I'm just thinking on music. Sorry to, I'm just thinking. I wonder if Jennifer asked that question because there's a character in music's really important to me in my life. It's hugely important.
Yeah.
And when I'm writing, particularly if I'm writing characters that are younger than me, I like them to be listening to music that young people younger than me would listen to. So there's no point having a character in her late teens or 20s who listens to the music I listen to. So in You Are Always Mine, there is a young character, and she listens to music
like Billie Eilish and
yes, exactly. So I listen to that music when I'm writing her scenes.
Oh right, okay.
I listen to the music she would be listening to, and sometimes if I'm writing really towards the ends of my books, the drama always kind of the tension always ratchets up and it gets quite tense. And I do like in those scenes to listen to very tense music, and it keeps me writing really fast.
That's really interesting. Lots of writers, some like complete silence, some like just headphones on, head down. I think it was A.A. Damned, who listened to quite a scary soundtrack while he was writing one of his books. Things just come back to you from previous interviews.
Lots of writers have playlists that they create, for a book they're writing.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd ever. I think I just listen to the same thing over and over again, whatever I'm doing. So I just have something on repeat. So not the same song, but maybe the same playlist, depending on what mood I'm in. But I was quite pleased that my nephew, we were listening to all of the music, and there was like a lot that he was like, I can't believe you like this. And I was like, yeah, because when I was your age, this is what I was listening to. And for him, it's like this old school stuff, and it makes you feel ancient.
No, I know. Goodness, I know. But my daughter listens to loads of music that I listened to when I was young.
Yeah. I loved how everyone thought they just discovered in Stranger Things, Kate Bush.
Oh, I know.
The kids are all singing it, and I'm like, yeah, I know.
Isn't it wonderful to see her topping the charts again?
Yeah, fantastic. I love it.
How good was that last series as well?
Oh, so good. And I wasn't as much of a wuss this time. I didn't watch as much like this.
Oh, I thought this series was terrifying.
I'm just a bit braver with it because I think I've come to know what kind of level of horror. I still can't look at some of the faces. I'm a bit odd with weird faces, but I can read it. I can rarely watch it. But what have you been watching? Have you been watching any of the stuff on Netflix? Any of the or any of the channels. We're not promoting Netflix, although if they want me to promote them,
oh my God. So
I'm sure I could.
I will just say this. I love TV, man. I love TV. So I just finished watching Capture, the second series of Capture, which I thought was amazing.
Not seeing that.
Oh,
Right, writing that down.
Capture, I think it's brilliant. Now I know not everyone loved it. It's absolutely brilliant. And in the second series, there's this actor in it. I can't remember his name, but he if anyone has seen I May Destroy You, which was Michaela Cole's amazing series, he played Kwame in that, and he plays an MP in Capture. He's stunningly beautiful and also just an amazing actor, and it's just really clever. It's all about kind of it's basically all about how cameras are just watching us all the time and what that's doing to society and stuff. That's really clever. So Capture, currently watching with my daughter. So me and my daughter, we have our kind of TV series that we watch, and our latest one is Murder in the Building. I don't know if it's the Disney series. Okay. Steve Martin, Selena Gomez, and I can't remember who the other guy is. I'm sure somebody will put in the comments. It's absolutely fantastic. It's just this brilliant series about these people living in this beautiful New York apartment block. You know, one of those fancy New York apartment blocks, the really big ones?
And somebody gets overlooking Central Park.
Yeah, one of those. And somebody gets murdered in the building, and these three people who live in apartments in the building decide to investigate and do their podcast about it. And it's just brilliant. It's fantastic.
Ooh, that sounds
And
really
I'm also
good.
watching, I started watching Better Call Saul because I loved Breaking Bad, and now I'm watching Better Call Saul. So
could never get into Breaking Bad. I'd maybe try it again though. That could have just been, you know, sometimes you try something and then at the time you don't get into it. I have been rewatching Homeland, which I absolutely loved.
So I watched the first few series of Homeland. I thought they were brilliant, but then it kind of just
it changed after about series 4. It kind of went in a bit of a different direction.
Yeah,
which I really liked. But I know
did you? Yeah. See, I kind of lost it. It lost it a bit then, really.
Yeah. I'm huge fan of it. Huge fan. The other one that I'll recommend to anyone who hasn't seen them yet is The Sinner. There's 4 series. They're a bit offbeat. They're a bit odd.
I know, you're right, actually. I watched the first one of those. And who's the guy who plays? Can you remember his name? The actor. What's his name?
Bill
Pullman, is it?
I don't know. I'm thinking it could be, but yeah, Bill Pullman.
Yeah. Actually, I watched the first and second series. They were both really good. Yeah.
The third and fourth. So for anyone who doesn't know, Bill Pullman plays the detective whose name escapes me. Because I've not watched it for a while, but he's in all 4 of them, and they're all very different. They're all very unusual, but yeah, his character's great and really works well with with everything that's going on. They're all a bit bonkers, but in a good way when it's entertainment. So
the thing I love about that series as well is that that's a really good series where you absolutely have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, you really don't.
Do you know what I mean?
Really
but you can't, like, it's good because it keeps your interest, because you're trying to work out kind of what's going on. And
yeah, definitely. Somebody said that's interesting that you listen to music that will be related to your writing. They're more heavy rock. That's Jennifer as well.
Yes, yeah.
So we've got going back to music. We were thinking about what you'd listen to when you're reading, but something that's come up lately for me is songs that you kind of would maybe sing in your head just to brighten your mood. You know, if you're going into a meeting or and you need to just boost yourself, or you know, a bit of Beyonce going on in your head, or I sing Mambo Number 5 to myself. Have you got any kind of songs? I don't sing it out loud. I've got a terrible voice. Terrible.
I don't know if I do really. I do get massive earworms. So for example, so I don't do that, but probably like lots of people during the first and second lockdown, I started doing mindfulness and meditation. And this thing happened to me where every time I sat down, I had the Headspace app, and every time I sat down to do my meditation with Headspace, in my head, all I could hear was, you know, that song, We Built This City on Rock and Roll? And
that's it now. That's what I'll be singing at 2:00 in the morning.
Honestly, it got in my head, and to the point where it became really disturbing. But then I did some Google research, and apparently it's a really common thing when you do meditation to get an earworm of a song that just won't leave your head. It did go eventually, but it was most bizarre for a very, very long time. I'd sit down and be very mindful, but this song would be playing in my head. I don't know where it came from. It's not a song I listen to very often. It was just a bizarre thing.
It's probably just a couple of words have just made you think of it, and that's it. It's stuck.
But I can talk about it now without worrying that it's going to happen again. But literally, it must be 9 months of this song just going do 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 do.
Laura's saying she's got series 3 and 4 of The Sinner still to watch. Agree, it's so weird, it's gripping. I actually recommended one of my friends watch it, and then realised that she doesn't like she wouldn't like it at all. So I had to ring her and say, don't watch it. Actually, I don't know why I've told you to watch this. She doesn't. She's more the cozy end of things. She's not. Doesn't like blood and gore. Doesn't like violence. Doesn't like any of the stuff that happens in it. I don't know why I recommended it.
She would love murders in the building then.
Yeah, she might not have spoken to me again if she'd have started it. So yeah, not good. What have you been reading at the moment?
Let me think. I should have brought my Kindle up with me. So I'm reading. The reason I'm hesitating is I don't want to name it, but I'm reading a crime book at the moment that I'm not enjoying very much.
Okay.
I have read recently an advanced copy of Chris Kern's next book called When the Lights Go Out, which is brilliant. Absolutely
it is brilliant.
Brilliant. I recently read Amanda Cassidy's book, which is coming out in October, called Breaking, which is really brilliant.
I've got that one. I've not had a chance to sit down with it yet.
Good. I think you'll like that. And I read this amazing book recently, based in Australia, set in the Vietnamese community in Australia. And I can't remember the name of it, but I have been tweeting about it because I think it's the most stunning debut I've read this year, definitely.
Wow.
It's amazing. So later I'll put in the chat the name of the book. I'll need to check it. I can't remember.
And I've seen some of your tweets as well, and I can't think off the top of my head.
No, I
see so many book recommendations.
Oh, it's a Vietnamese. She's Vietnamese, the writer, and Vietnamese Australian. It's just amazing. It's amazing. It's so good.
What can you remember? Did you have a favourite book of the year last year? Because we mentioned that before you were gone, which I'm pointing to with my pen.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely loved that. And I mean, I read a lot of books. This is not a secret. Me and Kaz absolutely annihilates my total, but I do read hundreds.
Yeah, I read a lot as well. I mean, I find it hard to. I almost find it hard to remember because I read so much, and I do think there's something about because I read books on my Kindle as well, which is fantastic. And I love my Kindle, and I know everyone has different opinions about it, but I love my Kindle for two main reasons. I can read in bed without disturbing my husband, and I can bring my Kindle on holiday with me and have loads and loads of books. Sorry, I've just noticed this room is really dark. Am I too dark, or am I okay?
I'm wondering if it's going to get too dark. I can still see you.
Turn the light on 1 second. Oh, that's a bit better, isn't it?
Yeah. Perfect.
And so the other reason I love my Kindle is because I can take it on holiday with me and bring loads of books. But I do think, do you read in a Kindle, Sam?
Yeah, so I've got my phone that you can. Looks like I've got chewing gum on it. It's white tack on the over the camera.
I wonder if there's something about reading on a device that means that the kind of book is less, the story is memorable, but in terms of the name of the book and stuff like that, it's harder to remember afterwards sometimes.
Yeah, probably, because I suppose if you're picking up a paperback or a hardback, you're constantly being reminded.
You're constantly looking at it, aren't you? Yeah.
I can't physically hold a paper book or a hardback for very long, so it would take me a lot longer to get through them, whereas I'll sit and read on my laptop, and then I don't have to use my hands at all, which is really helpful. Or I'll read on my Kindle, and I'll like prop it up wherever, so I'm not always having to hold it.
But I do think because of that I read lots of books, but I remember the story, but I'm less inclined to remember the title or the author, you know.
Yeah, that makes lots of sense now you've said it.
Yeah, so I think that, but I have become a bit of a fan of Robert Goddard, who's a really well writer. And that's because there's somebody on UK Crime Book Club called Robin Price, who very sweetly has just really, really written lovely things about my books. And one of my books, he described me as being like Robert Goddard. So I went and sought out Robert Goddard's books, and I would say that's a ridiculously insane compliment. But his books are amazing.
One thing that you mentioned in You Were Always Mine was there's a part where Dee interviews different people who are Irish but have moved to England for various reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that you find really interesting? It's always interesting to read, but it was one of the things that struck me about the book.
So I think we've probably spoken about this before, but because I'm Irish living in England, my sense of being, you don't feel different when you're living in your own country, but when you move to another country, you feel different. So to you, for example, I sound different, so therefore I am different. And for me, it's not so much about how I sound, but my cultural references are different to my English friends, for example. I grew up watching different TV. So I feel different. I feel like an outsider here, and not this is my home now, and that's not. I'm not saying that is a bad thing, but what it has done for me, it's really intensified my sense of Irishness. And since I've been living here, I've become really interested in two things in particular. I think I've become interested in the generation above me who were reluctant immigrants into this country from Ireland. So people who were very much economic migrants who came over in the 50s and 60s and always thought that they would be here for a few years and they would go back to Ireland. But for most of them, that never happened. So that really interests me, that experience. And I'm really interested in how they created new communities here in England. I'm really interested in that. And the other thing that really interests me is the experience of second generation Irish people who grow up in this country and sound English, but identify as being Irish. And I have friends like that. And it's been really interesting for me to get to know them and to realize that they identify as being Irish, but to someone like me, they are 100% English. And so I'm just interested in that experience. And and then more broadly, it's made me interested in the different reasons and ways we identify ourselves culturally, and also how important that is, I think. So if I live and grew up in Ireland, if I'd never left, I think being Irish would probably be less important to me than it is because I'm living outside of Ireland.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I don't know if that's a very long answer, but that it's something
we like long answers. That's good. Yeah, I think long answers are nice because not that there's anything wrong with short answers. I just always find that people go off in directions that you don't expect.
Well, I
think is lovely.
I did a master's degree many years ago in applied linguistics, and my thesis actually was on the relationship between accent and identity. And so I spoke to lots of different people in England and just trying to find out kind of what are the different things about a person that makes them identify as being, from one country rather than another.
One thing I've been thinking about a lot lately is the shows that I used to watch growing up, and that's you just reminded me of it, talking about the things that were different for you. I absolutely loved This Is Your Life. So for anyone who doesn't know, Michael Aspel and there was another gentleman before him.
Eamon Andrews, wasn't it before him?
Thank you. Yeah, with a huge red book, and it had different things, maybe newspaper cuttings, photographs. It was basically the story of their life, and they had lots of people come out to greet them. Who would be in your audience? Who would be coming to greet you?
Oh my goodness, I suppose that's such a great question. So, I don't know. I suppose family, friends. So one person who would be, but I think she's probably dead now. I had this amazing English teacher when I was in secondary school called Miss Maloney, and she was amazing. And she definitely is one of the, just one of these brilliant teachers who just really inspire you. And she I wouldn't say she is the reason I love reading, because I had loved reading way before that. But she's definitely huge influence in my life, and definitely one of the reasons I ended up becoming a writer, because of somebody like her. So she'd be there in my dream. This is your life. Also, my old mentor, Martin Waits, who's a well-known crime writer, he's another reason I'm writing today, because Martin kind of took a punt on me, really, and really supported me in the early days of my career.
I'd have to say my English teacher, he would be right up there as well. Yeah, but through the night now and the next couple of days, people will come to you, names will come to you, and you think, oh my word, I've not thought about them for ages.
Probably,
as little bits come back to you. So how, now that we're kind of able to go out and do more things, how has that affected you being able to see? I know you've got a really good close group of friends. Are you able to see them now?
Yeah.
Are you all finding time to go and do that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the really big thing for me, the really hard thing for me during sort of all the different lockdowns, was not being able to get back to see my parents in Ireland. So that's been lovely to be able to, because my parents are old, and they're both kind of got health issues and stuff. So being able to do that is really important to me. And also, and I'm sure it's the same for any parent, but in a way, the really big thing for me has been much more about my children being able to kind of get on with their lives.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I just think for young people, I think it's going to take us so long to realize the long-term impact that's had on them. My son was speaking during the summer about, I think when the third lockdown came around, he just literally, him and his friends just thought, it's going to be like this forever, this is it, it's going to be like this forever. And you just think, how old is he then? 97, 18, 19, something like that. Like, what a thing,
Yeah.
And then I say that, and I think of people in China who are still going through it over and over, and how horrific that must be. Just absolutely horrific. So yes, I'm able to see friends again, and yes, that's lovely. But I remember as we came out of the first lockdown and we were able to see, I don't know if you remember, we could see like one other, there was sometime we were able to go and visit one other couple that we knew. And I remember talking to my friend that day and saying, I'm in my early 50s. Like, if I never leave Eastbourne again, I'll be fine with that. But I would hate that to be my children's experience. I want them to go and live and see the world and stuff. So for me, that's been the big joy, has being able to see them being able to do all that stuff again.
So we briefly touched on your launch that's is it next week or the week after?
Next Thursday, 22nd.
Oh, that was why I can't come. It's my wedding anniversary.
Oh, well, if you must
remember that, isn't it?
Sam, that's okay. We can still be friends.
But give everyone the full details of the event. Are there still tickets left?
So there's no tickets. You can just turn up, but do get in touch with me to let me know, because then I am buying some wine, so I need to make sure there's enough. It's in a beautiful wine bar in Eastbourne called Levels Wine Bar, which is behind the Grand Hotel, so everyone will know where that is. It starts at 7 p.m. Thursday, the 22nd of September. There's a big crowd of people coming. We are also having a raffle during the night to raise money for a brilliant charity called You Raise Me Up, which supports families who have lost people to cancer. So it offers counselling, bereavement counselling, and all sorts of support. And it's just going to be a good fun night. There's going to be a free glass of wine for everyone who turns up. And so if you're in or around Eastbourne next Thursday night, do come along. It'd be lovely to see you.
And I've just realised that my wedding anniversary is the 21st. Don't tell my husband. We have 2 anniversaries together. So the first one is wedding anniversary. The second one is the anniversary of when we actually got together. So, yeah. But I always forget anyway. I'm terrible. I'm rubbish with dates.
We forget. Absolutely, we always forget our wedding anniversary, me and my husband.
I think last year we managed to sit together and have something to eat together, just the 2 of us, but we didn't even attempt to go anywhere or do anything. Just pointless with so many kids and so much going on.
How many years are you married?
20 years and 21 years together.
Wow.
Yeah. Doesn't it sneak up on you?
Oh, it does indeed, yeah.
Right, so we've covered quite a lot. and you know, we've really gone into detail with things that I'm really enjoyed talking about. And we've oh no, I thought I've just misread the time. I thought we were almost ready, but we've got about 10 minutes, so I can relax and I can
Deep
breathe.
breath. Do you know what? I haven't got my glasses on, so I can't see the detail of the questions coming up in the chat or the time, in fact. So I'll need you to warn me.
Don't know if the light was just on it funny. Laura says, "Oh, totally agree, Sheila. Northern Irish living in England."
Oh, hello, Laura.
And Leslie said, "I wasn't very social before, but I've lost any social skills now. Definitely a hermit. I'm
Yeah.
having to relearn my social skills. How are
Mm.
you finding it? Going doing
Yeah, I
everything
just
we did
think
before?"
so I used to, because I still have a day job alongside my writing, and I used to commute into London 2 days a week. So I don't do that anymore, and I will never go back to doing that again. I do think I've got a bit lazy about kind of socializing and stuff, and I really do worry about that, because I don't want to be lying on my deathbed thinking I just got a bit lazy, you know.
Mm.
So what I kind of compensate for that by going through weeks of going, we have to socialize, we have to see people, but kind of doing it more because I feel we should, rather than actually, you know, it might be what I want to do. Um, yeah, I just think we've probably all changed in ways we're not even sure about yet. You know, we don't recognize.
Yeah.
And I do, yeah, as you know, Sam, it's been a bit different for me because my daughter has been sick for a few years, and she's getting better now. And so I'm kind of coming out of that as well as coming out of lockdown. So it's a really big adjustment for me, actually.
Yeah, I can
I'm looking
imagine that.
forward to doing things like going to Harrogate next year, which I didn't make this year.
Yeah, I didn't end up there in the end on the day. Other things happened, so I didn't go. I think it'll need more planning. It would
I will
definitely
be
need an
badgering you
overnight
to go
stay.
next year, because I am going next year, come hell or high water, and I really want to see you there. So
Absolutely. What about other local events to you? Are there other things that people, authors or readers, can go to? We've got a brilliant new event here in Manchester run by Rob Parker, which is in conjunction with Danny at Manchester Central Library, and it's the monthly. They have Rob hosts it, and there's 3 authors every month that come and sit, and he interviews them, and then we all go to the pub afterwards.
oh wow, that
So,
sounds
is there anything
fantastic.
like that near you?
And there's loads of stuff like that near me, but I'm not involved in any of it at the moment. And being really honest with you, the reason for that is I just I don't have the time. So I've done a rubbish job with this book of getting myself out there. I've done a few radio interviews, and I know I need to do much more in terms of getting out there and, you know, getting into events and stuff. But I just think, like loads of working moms, I just feel overwhelmed sometimes,
Yeah.
and I always have to remember that actually the really important thing for me is to find time to write. And it's very easy to end up just doing lots of stuff and not having that writing time. And because I've got other stuff going on, like a job and looking after people, I need to the writing, the little bits of free time I have, I need to keep that for writing. So no, no is the answer to. There's not much else going on with me at the moment apart from my launch, I'm afraid.
So, how do you? Is it easy to just snap into the? I've got 10 minutes. I need to just sit and write, or do you
Uh,
need a longer period than that?
not 10 minutes like that. I find that really hard. But the key,
Mm.
as you know, and as anyone listening to this will know, is you just have to be incredibly disciplined. So I my best writing time is in the morning before everyone else gets up, before the day starts. And ever since I started writing about 16 years ago, I've been really good at getting up super early and writing in
Wow.
the morning. And that's kind of still what I do. And then the other thing is I've just become a really sad person with no social life because I write on Saturday and Sunday instead of going out and living my life. And I was speaking to a writer friend of mine about this during the week, and I just think, because he's a very successful and good writer, but I was just saying, you know, will we be lying on our deathbeds just thinking, what were we doing, just spending all this time writing when we should have been out, you know, swimming in the sea and spending time with friends and family? I don't know. I don't know. Um,
Not
So
an easy
that's
thing to
basically how
get
I
the
live.
balance.
Yeah, you need the balance,
Excuse
but
me.
I think finding that balance is just difficult if you're trying to write and balance it alongside other stuff. But the reason I do it is because I know if I didn't do it, I'd just be really sad not to have this in my life. It would feel like a real loss.
Yeah.
So, and like everything else, I think for all working moms, there's always a compromise. So I've decided to compromise other stuff to allow myself time to write.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Compromise and discipline. The
Yes.
two hardest things to do, but the two most necessary things.
Mm-hmm.
I do find with it, though, that sometimes my organisational skills go out the window a bit.
And that's fine too, because we're only human, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely right. Now we are almost out of time.
Okay.
Get it right this time. Give everyone just a quick recap. So the audiobook comes out on the 1st of October, but the other three are already available.
Audiobook for this one comes out on the 1st of October. But this book's out now. It's the fourth book in my Dee Doran series. They're all available from all kind of bookshops and stuff and on all the online stores.
Yeah.
And my character's Dee Doran. The books are based in Eastbourne, and I really hope you like them.
Thank you very much. And thank you to everyone who's joined us and asked questions or left comments. Please go and buy these books. I promise you will not regret it. I love my paperbacks, but I don't read them. As I said, I read them on my Kindle. So that's what I've been doing. And yeah, I just think you're fabulous. I really do.
Oh, well, likewise.
Well, thank you very much. And I look forward to next time.
Me too.